Right, let's jump right in, shall we? Ready for a deep dive into the story behind Viagra?
Let's do it.
I mean, you guys sent over a ton of fascinating info about this little blue pill, not just the science, but like the whole cultural impact, the business side of things.
Well,
And we even have some excerpts from a scholarly article called Viagra, the first blockbuster drug.
that's a great one.
So, yeah, buckle up.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating journey. I mean, think about it. What we know as Viagra today started as a treatment for angina, a heart condition.
Right.
It makes you wonder how many other like game-changing discoveries are just kind of hidden away in labs waiting for, their moment.
Oh, for sure. I mean, talk about a twist of fate, right?
Yeah.
So how did scientists even go from like treating chest pain to, well.
Well, it's all about how Viagra works, right? So it was designed to improve blood flow to the heart by relaxing blood vessels. It's a process called vasodilation. And, well, it turns out that same mechanism, the one that helps widen those arteries, can also have other applications.
Okay, so that's where things get really interesting, I guess. But it wasn't like a straight shot to success, was it?
Yeah.
This article actually mentions like a bit of a paternity battle over who actually invented Viagra.
Right. It really shows how science is rarely a solo thing. You have the British patent that names the scientist, Terret, and then you have the American press kind of leaning towards a researcher named Campbell. And get this, Campbell himself wanted to be remembered for a different drug entirely.
Wow, so it was more of a team effort, even if one person ends up, in the spotlight.
Exactly.
But there's one name that you can't really separate from Viagra's success, and that's William C. Steer Jr. He was head of Pfizer's prescription drug division. What was it about him that like turned Viagra into this phenomenon?
Well, Steer was a true visionary. He had this huge ambition of making Pfizer the world's largest pharmaceutical company, and his approach was, well, it was revolutionary. He wanted to like completely break down those walls between marketing and research and development.
That's an interesting thought, like marketing actually influencing what drugs get developed.
Yeah, pretty wild.
So how did he actually put this vision into action?
So Steer came up with these things called early candidate management teams and advanced candidate management teams. Instead of developing a drug and then figuring out how to market it, he brought marketing experts in right from the beginning.
Oh, so he was already working on the story while the scientists were still in the lab.
Exactly. He understood that a successful drug needed more than just data. It needed a narrative, a target audience, a clear position in the market. And Viagra was the perfect example of that philosophy in action. But here's where it gets, even more interesting. The article suggests that the whole concept of erectile dysfunction, ED, was practically created to make a market for Viagra.
Wait, so you're saying that before Viagra, men just kind of accepted it as a part of life? That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is?
So by giving it a name, ED, by making it a medical thing, they were able to position Viagra as like the solution.
It's a classic example of, the power of framing. Suddenly, it wasn't just like a natural part of aging or a personal struggle. It was a treatable medical condition.
I see how Steer's marketing skills really come into play here.
Right.
But he didn't stop there, did he? The article talks about some pretty innovative ways he got Viagra into the hands, pockets of consumers.
Right. He was a pioneer, especially in, the pharmaceutical world. This was the late 90s, and the FDA had just relaxed its rules about direct-to-consumer advertising for prescription drugs.
Wait, so you're telling me that before that, you couldn't even advertise these drugs directly to the public?
Nope, that's right. It was a huge change.
That's a massive shift. So Viagra was one of the first to take advantage of this new landscape.
Absolutely. All of a sudden, people were seeing commercials for this little blue pill, promising to like rekindle romance, and they were seeing them on primetime TV.
Yeah, I bet that caused a stir. I bet everyone was talking about it. It wasn't just a medical thing. It was a full-blown cultural phenomenon.
It really was. Viagra tapped into something like much deeper than just a physical need. It challenged how we see aging, especially for men. It offered a sense of, renewed vitality.
So it became a symbol of those times. Like this whole society focused on self-improvement and defying age.
Precisely.
So Viagra wasn't just a drug. It was like a cultural earthquake.
It really was. And it was all thanks to, a bit of a lucky discovery, a brilliant marketing mind, and some really good timing.
Yeah, but we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to uncover about Viagra's impact on our culture, technology, and even our understanding of ourselves.
For sure. There's a lot more to explore.
We'll dive into all of that in just a bit.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. We're talking Viagra, and it's wild how it tapped into this whole idea of like, fighting aging and how these direct-to-consumer ads played such a big role.
Yeah, it's really interesting how those ads, they weren't just about selling the product, It was more like they were trying to change how people saw what's considered a medical condition in the first place.
Right. Like with ED, erectile dysfunction. It's like Viagra basically created this whole market
Yeah.
by reframing something. It was just like a normal part of life before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, before Viagra, guys might have talked to their doctors about it, but it wasn't really seen as a specific condition that you could just treat. It was often put down to things like uh, stress or getting older or even, psychological stuff.
Yeah, but by giving it a name,
Yeah,
ED, it became like this concrete thing, something you could diagnose and actually treat.
right.
And of course, Viagra was the solution.
It was.
It's genius from a marketing perspective, but it also makes you think about the ethics of it all.
Yeah, for sure. It's a complicated issue. On the one hand, you could say it helped guys get treatment for a problem they might have been, like, suffering with silently. It made it okay to talk about it, or gave them a way to, like, take control.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It definitely opened up a conversation about men's sexual health that wasn't really happening before.
Exactly. But, on the other hand, there's that worry that we're turning normal human experiences into medical problems, like making up problems that weren't there before.
It's like walking that fine line between meeting real needs and just, creating demand for stuff that people might not actually need.
Yeah, exactly. And that debate's still going on today, not just with ED, but with all sorts of things. Think about low T or even social anxiety. Are these really medical issues, or are they just being, blown up by all the pharmaceutical marketing out there?
Yeah, lots to think about there. But going back to Viagra, those ads were pretty groundbreaking at the time, weren't they? I mean, you had like former senators and athletes talking about something that used to be totally taboo.
Oh, they were definitely pushing the limits of what was okay in advertising back then. Using humor and hints and even like suggestive images.
Right.
And it worked like a charm.
I bet people were talking about those ads for sure.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just TV, right? This article talks about how Viagra had a huge impact online too.
Absolutely. Viagra was like at the forefront of online marketing, especially when the internet was just starting out. They were one of the first companies to really figure out how to sell directly to consumers online. And that had a ripple effect on like the whole world of e-commerce.
Oh, so wait, you're saying Viagra kind of shaped how we shop online today? That's crazy.
It did. It really did.
Wow. But it also mentions its influence on the porn industry. How did that happen?
Well, think about it. Viagra kind of offers a solution to a problem that's, often shown in porn. It kind of contributed to this shift towards more explicit stuff and this focus on performance, which then, just fueled more demand for the drug itself. It's like this weird feedback loop.
It's like this little blue pill ended up
For sure.
influencing everything, from how we think about getting older and masculinity to how we shop and even consume entertainment online.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how connected everything is. Sometimes one single innovation, especially one that touches something as basic as human sexuality, can have these huge and totally unpredictable consequences.
It's true. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the accidental discovery of Viagra to its marketing genius and its like ripple effects on culture and technology.
Right.
But we're not done yet. There's still that question of its legacy and what its success really means in the bigger picture. We'll dive into all of that when we come back.
And we're back. I'm still thinking about how this little blue pill, Viagra, managed to like impact practically everything, from changing how we talk about men's health to literally shaping how we shop online and even like the porn industry. It's crazy.
It really is. It shows how something that starts in a lab can have consequences that no one could imagine.
Right.
But let's maybe shift gears a little and talk about Viagra's, lasting legacy.
Yeah.
What happened after that initial explosion onto the scene? Yeah, what happened after it? Like, everyone got over the shock of seeing like Bob Dole talking about erectile dysfunction on TV, right?
Well, one of the biggest things was this whole new category of drugs, lifestyle medications.
Oh, yes.
Viagra showed that there's a massive market for drugs that address, quality of life issues, even if they're not treating something life-threatening.
So like Are we talking things like hair loss treatments or meds for low libido?
Yeah.
Stuff that makes your life better but isn't like essential for survival?
Exactly. Viagra, it basically paved the way for this whole industry. It showed these pharmaceutical companies that people would pay for a better quality of life, not just a cure.
Hmm.
And it showed them the power of, direct to consumer advertising, which is everywhere now in the pharmaceutical world.
So it's like Viagra changed the whole business model of the industry.
It really did.
It's almost like it opened Pandora's box.
It kind of did. It definitely brought up some big questions about, marketing's role in healthcare. Where's the line between like meeting a real need and creating a need that wasn't even there before? It's something we're still debating today.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. We want new discoveries and all that, but we also have to be careful about like over medicalizing things and yeah, how marketing influences how we see health and illness.
Right, absolutely. But, we shouldn't forget the good stuff about Viagra's legacy, too.
Okay.
It helps make it okay to talk about sexual health, especially for older men.
Mhm.
It gave them a way to get treatment for something that was, often really embarrassing and kept quiet.
Yeah, that's true. It made it normal to have that conversation, which was definitely overdue.
Yeah. And it also, like, challenged those old ideas about aging. It showed that your sex life didn't have to fade away as you get older.
It redefined what it means to age gracefully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Viagra's success also led to a ton of like new research in erectile dysfunction treatments.
Oh, right. It wasn't long before we had like Cialis and Levitra and all those offering different options and stuff.
Right, competition leads to new ideas. Viagra's success made other companies put money into research, which led to, new and better treatments.
So Viagra's legacy isn't just about the drug itself. It's about all the progress. It started in that whole field.
That's a great way to put it.
So if we kind of zoom out and look at the big picture, what's the lesson here with Viagra? What should our listener take away from all this?
I think it shows the power of one single discovery, especially when it's connected to something as basic as human sexuality. It can create a chain reaction that affects everything from culture to technology to how we see health and aging. It
Mhm.
reminds us that breakthroughs, they don't just happen in isolation. They're part of this whole web of social, economic, and cultural stuff.
And it shows how important it is to like really think critically about health information. We're always being bombarded with messages from pharmaceutical companies. So we got to do our own research, talk to our doctors, and just be aware of how marketing can influence us.
Exactly, really important. And lastly, I think Viagra's story reminds us that sometimes the most surprising discoveries can lead to the biggest changes. Who would have thought that a potential heart medication would completely change how we see sexuality, aging, and even what we consider a medical condition?
It really makes you think like the world's full of surprises and the future is always doing things we could never predict. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of Viagra. Thanks for coming along with us on this journey, and we'll catch you on our next adventure into the unexpected.